I'm Diane, and this is Diane's Fantasy Football. Going into week 8 in the spirit of Halloween, I'm going to tell you which guys to keep in your candy bag and which guys to toss out to the neighbors. So my fantasy team just came off of a 4-game win streak. I was averaging 140 points per game. Not bad for a girl who had the lowest projections going into week 1 and week 2. Each week my team is getting better because I am making some solid moves. So if you guys haven't been following, now's your chance to jump on board and we can build a solid championship team together. I'm going to let you know who to start, who to sit, who to add, and who to drop. And if you need some one-on-one help, just comment down below. Let's start with a quick recap of week 7, and then I'll get into some advice for week 8. Ryan Tannehill, Jarvis Landry, and Lamar Miller were part of the Miami wrecking crew against Houston. Ryan Tannehill had 4 touchdown passes in the first half. Jarvis Landry had 2 touchdowns, and Lamar Miller was the #1 fantasy player in all of week 7. Miami destroyed Houston. Houston's got 99 problems, but winning ain't one. Do you guys remember when Houston used to have a defense? Yeah. Houston's so bad that their backup quarterback missed his flight. A couple of my other favorite guys from week 7, Todd Gurley with 2 touchdowns, 35 receiving yards, and 128 rushing yards. Kirk Cousins, you like that?
You like that?
Yeah, Kirk, we like that.
You like that?
Nate Washington and T.Y. Hilton also had great games this past weekend. Your ballers for week 8 are going to be Matt Ryan, Justin Forsett at home versus the Chargers, who have the worst rushing defense in the league. Chris Johnson just came off of a huge game last weekend against Baltimore. Look for a repeat performance against Cleveland. And if he keeps playing like this, he's going to be able to buy his whole team grills.
Got 30 down at the bottom.
Your obvious starters who I'm expecting big numbers from: Devontae Freeman, Matt Forte, Chris Ivory, Le'Veon Bell, Hopkins at home against Tennessee, Julio Jones, Larry Fitzgerald, Odell Beckham Jr., and Jimmy Graham. I just picked up McFadden, so I think it's time to drop Randall and pick up McFadden. Brandon Marshall. I saw this guy drop a touchdown last week against New England. But don't fret, boys. Your balls are still safe in his hands this weekend at Oakland. Guys, I think you should pick up Eric Ebron. Had a really nice game last week. He had 1 touchdown, and he'll line up really nice against the Chiefs when they meet in London. And if you guys get the chance, pick up Danny Amendola. And not just because of that Puma commercial. Stud or dud? In the stud category, we've got Mark Ingram, Jordan Reed, who I just picked up and I'm so excited about. Sharkhandrick West had 110 yards on 22 carries with a touchdown. Stephen Diggs, Vikings wide receiver, had a 36-yard touchdown catch. And he had a team high with 9 targets for the 2nd consecutive week. He is the Vikings' best receiver right now. If you hadn't picked him up yet, what are you waiting for? Steve Smith Sr. has more receiving yards and more touchdowns than all Ravens wide receivers combined this year. If you are getting extra thirsty and there's no one left in your league to pick up, consider these guys. Look for Alfred Blue to be a stud now that Arian Foster is donezo. Giants running back Orleans Darkwa had 48 yards, 8 carries, and 1 touchdown. They're at New Orleans this weekend, so you might want to consider adding him to your roster. Starks is back, baby. He wrecked shop against San Diego right before their bye week. And if he's not picked up in your league, what are you waiting for? Duds: Charles Clay, Alfred Morris, and Arian Foster. Fosters, that's Australian for injury prone. I made the mistake of picking up Josh McCown while my main guy, Aaron Rodgers, was on bye. And I regretted that more than the last Tinder date I went on. I will be mailing Mr. McCown a box of tampons and some birth control. He didn't quit it. Now these guys are guys that have had 1 or 2 maybe good games, and they ain't doing shit now. Golden Tate, Stafford, thanks for nothing. Melvin Gordon, who is also on my bench. This guy has major ball control issues. He got benched the week before last because of ball control issues, and he hasn't gotten in the end zone once. That's like going on your 3rd date and expecting to get some, and you don't. Quarterback time. What I'm having an issue with here is these high-scoring games and these low-scoring quarterbacks. For example, the final score of the Jacksonville-Buffalo game was 34-31. However, Blake Bortles only had 11 fantasy points. Eli Manning was also a victim of that tragedy. He only had 6 points. Drew Brees, a top quarterback, has not delivered nearly close to where we thought this Super Bowl champ would be. On average, he will get you about 15 points per game. That's not nearly where you want your fantasy quarterback to be, especially when guys like Rodgers, Rivers, Tannehill, and Flacco are putting up 20-plus points per game. Knock, knock. Who dat? a different quarterback. I'm not saying to divorce the guy. I'm just saying it might be time to consider maybe an open relationship. Ryan Tannehill, I see you. You might want to consider someone like Derek Carr. He isn't owned in too many leagues, but he's a worthwhile pickup. And he just came off of a monster game at San Diego. Another quarterback who might be on the up and up. Don't kill me for this one, Brian Hoyer. Even after that garbage game against Miami, he still managed to put up some points, even though they were in the form of cheap touchdowns at the very end. They're at home against Tennessee, and my heart won't even let me get into that one. But I will be at that game too, and yes, I will be wearing my Mariota jersey. Speaking of Mariota, hopefully he can get that offense back on track. They should be winning games. Go ahead and put Big Ben back into your lineup. 18 points, 30 points, first 2 games without Martavis Bryant, without Le'Veon Bell. Jordan Reed, Washington's tight end, was out for 2 weeks due to a concussion. In his first game back, he grabbed 11 of his 13 targets and had 2 touchdowns. I have picked this guy up and added him to my starting lineup. Don't quote me on this one, but I think Des Bryant will be making a comeback week 8. I'm Diane, and this is Diane's Fantasy Football. Happy Halloween!